All right, so we talked about the basics of genetics and those big vocabulary words as well as Gregor Mendel. Now we're going to be talking about probability and genetics. Please understand, math does directly tie into this. It's going to be pretty easy, simple math. Don't freak out too much. Once you get it, you get it. But we're going to do a lot of practice stuff to make sure that you get it. This right here is a quick little video. It's going to kind of walk you through some fun little things on probability and genetics. Press play on the PowerPoint. Remember, it's not going to be directly played on here. So, principles of probability. Probability is the likelihood that a particular event will occur. So, if Miss Hudson tosses a coin, what is the likelihood that it will land on heads, right? So, because there's only two sides, it's 1 out of 2, because it can only land on one side, and we have two options. Now we're going to do this kind of for more of our traits, right? Probability is expressed as a fraction or a percent. The probability that you will toss a coin with heads up is 1 out of 2. So that means it would be a 50%. Now, if I have this giant old keychain, what is the probability you will pick the right key, right? If we count how many keys there are 7. How many of them is the correct answer? 1. Okay, so it would be 1 out of 7. And you could also convert that into that, instead of a fraction, a percentage. Next, if 1 million people bought a lottery ticket, each with a different number, what's the probability that the one you bought will win, right? There's 1 million people, so that means it would be 1 in 1 million, okay? Really, really easy basic math, okay? The percentage would be converted to 0.00001. Now, remember, Gregor Mendel, he was that fancy little priest who studied pea plants. He was the first to recognize the probability and connect it to genetic crosses. Okay, so he really was studying the principles of probability and whether or not the species of pea plant comes out with the results he predicted or didn't. Okay, for example, remember when he was doing that crossbreeding that I talked about previously? He took the capital T, purebred tall plant, and the lowercase t, purebred short plant. When he bred them, he got tall plants, which means that our tall plants are going to be carrying that recessive trait. So it's capital T, lowercase t. Now, if I breed a capital T, lowercase t with a capital T, lowercase t, the results are that I get 3 tall plants and 1 short plant. So the probability is going to be based on what we call a Punnett square. I'm going to walk you guys through this right now. So give me 1 second. Hoping you guys can see my board. There we go. Okay, I'm going to walk you guys through this. This is called a Punnett square. It's used to show all of the possible outcomes of a genetic cross. So here I have the parent plant. We'll say mom is right here, capital T, lowercase t, and dad right here, capital T, lowercase t. So you always kind of want to start with our capitals. I prefer to write down 1 first. So we're going to do capital T, capital T. I'm just dropping this T down here. Next I have my lowercase t and my lowercase t. Okay? I just drop down the parents. Next, I'm going to move across my dad. So capital T, lowercase t, lowercase t. The result is that I have a purebred tall, I have a hybrid tall, and a purebred short. So that means my short is going to be 1 out of 4. That equals 25%. My tall is 3 out of 4, which equals 75%. Okay? That's all we're doing. Okay? We're just adding those together. Okay, here's another quick video for you. It's going to walk you more towards how you write out those Punnett squares. We're going to do a lot of practicing with this for the next week, okay? You really, really have to know this, especially because we are going to have a short project on this one. All right, remember, phenotype and genotype are different. With my little board that I just did, right, the phenotype is going to be our tall and short. The genotype is that capital T, lowercase t, lowercase t, lowercase t, and capital T, capital T. So if I want to say my phenotype percentages, I have that 25% short and the 75% tall. But for my genotype percentages, my capital T is 25%. My lowercase t is 25%. But I have 2 of the capital T, lowercase t. So that means that that percent is going to be 50%, okay? So for that pea plant, you can have 2 phenotypes for a stem height. You can have short and you can have tall, right? You can have that genotype, capital T, lowercase t, and lowercase t, lowercase t. My possible phenotypes, right? How can an organism have 3 genotypes but only 2 phenotypes? It's because that capital, that dominant trait, can hide the recessive trait, okay? So that's what's happening. My dominant trait is hiding the recessive trait. The recessive trait doesn't just disappear. It's just you're carrying it so that when you have offspring, right, then it will pass on to the offspring. Now, if the parent still has a dominant trait, you can still have that recessive keep carrying on and not showing for multiple generations, right? It's one of the reasons why red hair color is becoming more and more rare, because it's a recessive trait and not very many people carry the recessive trait. But if a person with a recessive trait breeds with someone who has that recessive trait as well, it's likely that that trait will start showing up again. Now remember, difference between homozygous and heterozygous. So homozygous is 2 identical alleles. So it'll either be capital or lowercase. Versus heterozygous is those 2 different alleles. So it'll be capital and lowercase. We're generally we're always going to write the capital letter first. That's another one of those rules that we have, capital before the lowercase. Here is a quick video on some basics of genetics for you guys. Click on that link and press play. And that's the end of our PowerPoint for today. Take care, guys. Bye.